Hello.
Hello.
Hello, and welcome to Conscious Parenting Experience with Anja Simmons. I'm a parenting success coach. And today I have a wonderful opportunity of talking with Nicole, who we're Facebook friends, I guess. I have seen her online in sharing her words and her wisdom, and it's so honorable to know somebody who is really right in there in the thick of this conscious parenting. Nicole is a writer, a healer, a wife, a mother, and a sister. So welcome.
Thank you, Anja.
So let's just start with the Nicole before children.
Okay.
It did exist at one time, just Nicole. So can you share a little bit about what your world was like at that point, before children, based on, what was going on with you, how your day was, whatever you feel like sharing?
Sure. So I've been at the same nonprofit counseling agency for the last 15 years. So I was working professionally at that time, and did a lot of work actually with regards to healthy relationships. I was working with both male perpetrators as well as abuse survivors, and really became passionate about preventing the problems and how to foster healthy relationships. And so I had some opportunities to do a lot of training, and I had a really great relationship with my husband. We spent lots of time talking and dreaming about parenthood, and I would say being selfish and lazy, just relaxing, enjoying the life. We had 4 years before we had children. But I was also quite hard on myself, and I had a lot of ideas, but not nearly as much sort of courage as I have now, because I sort of, with motherhood, you gain that sense of strength and courage. Once you can have children, it's like you can do anything.
That's really, it's true. It's really true. And it's as vast as that. You get the sense of the mama bear and the, wow, I could take on the world.
Yeah.
And so then when you had we should just say you're parenting 2 children, right? Mm-hmm. Son and a daughter, and your daughter's the eldest?
No, my son is 10 and my daughter 7.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Beautiful. So when you had your son, how did that change the dynamics of the house?
Well, before I had my son, I had a very early miscarriage, and so that was quite devastating. And I knew at that point I really wanted to be a mother. And so when I got pregnant again fairly quickly, I was so grateful, but I was also quite anxious and nervous about the pregnancy. Mm-hmm. It went quite well. Had a little bit of difficulty with labor, but he came out healthy and beautiful, and I was speechless, which everyone kind of laughed at. I was just such in awe of the miracle, and it was really amazing. Like the first few years were so much fun, so wonderful. Other than I was exhausted. He was a very demanding baby. Okay. I like to eat a lot, but I just really let go of schedules and just cocooned with him, and we would spend a week at my mom's when my husband was in a course, and just really enjoyed that experience. And the 3 of us would laugh together and play together, and it was a really wonderful time.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Actually, very similar to my son is the oldest, and the miracle of it. And then just this, we just, nobody could put him down. We just wanted to.
Yeah.
Just like, wow.
Yeah. Our sleeping was a little bit off, so I missed a lot of the morning programs. Mm-hmm. So I was probably a little bit isolated in the sense that, we would do our best sleeping in the sort of as the sun was coming up and in those late morning hours. Mm-hmm. but I had some friends that had children and stuff, so I connected with them. And then later on, we would get out to some programs and that. So
nice. And you had to give in to that. That was how it was right then.
Yes. Yeah.
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 Like, oh no, we must go this route, and you're like, well, it's just not working. This is how it works for us.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm a night owl to begin with, so it kind of worked well in that sense. So
super, yeah.
And he still is a night owl to this day, actually.
That's been a really interesting learning for me with my guys. And my husband's a musician, so who's a complete night owl, like who very rarely sees the light of day, definitely not morning. And how that. My daughter is actually a little more like that, but when my son was a baby, you know, I mean, I was really lucky because my husband, I could go to sleep and my husband would just, you know, be more than happy to be with him at that time.
Yeah.
It was a blessed moment.
We tried. I would try to let my husband help out, but I was nursing and he just wanted to eat. So he would wake up and we'd say, okay, we'll do the diaper change first. And he would scream through that diaper change. He's always been someone who knows what he wants and when he wants it. So.
Right. He shows that early on.
Yeah. So it was pretty exhausting in the beginning, but I had the opportunity when I was off on maternity leave with him to do some specific training around transition to parenthood for couples. And so that was really neat to apply what I had learned to my relationship with my husband. And today is actually our 15th wedding anniversary.
Oh, congratulations.
And I can really see how the things that we learned about what they call master couples and moving through that parenthood and all the challenges and the stresses it can take on the relationship, and really, you know, connecting with our shared values and keep making sure that we kept that foundation solid of our relationship. And I think that's made such a huge difference for us. And it's something that I think sometimes as parents, especially as moms, we put so much pressure on ourselves to always be there for our kids, and sometimes the marriage can take a back seat, and that, you know, that can impact everybody in negative ways.
Absolutely. Well, that's beautiful though, that you were able to stay connected even through crazy times, no sleep, whatever, right? Or that you actually feel that that's your support, that there's a backup. He's feeling that and you're feeling that. It is just a beautiful division. And it's not necessarily has to be 50%. It's not based on that. It's just based on knowing that you can say, oh my goodness, please give me 5 minutes to take a shower. Here's the baby. And vice versa, you know, as a way of, that's so important. And I'm really realizing more and more how awesome, like the fact that you had that time beforehand to connect and to be in a relationship. It's like the ideal way if we have a choice, right? Before children come in, because then you've got some grounding, you've got some roots, you've got some kind of holding on to you two, which is a massive and fabulous thing for children to witness and to see that, hey, there's this marriage and there's you. And it's like you say, it's tricky as mums, especially with nursing, that we just become so consumed with the baby, you can quite quickly forget dad's role. And many dads do kind of step back a little, feeling they don't know, and some can get right in there. So that's beautiful. Really healthy.
He had an opportunity to be off. It was kind of unexpected, but so he ended up being off with our son for about 6 months. And I went back to work, and it was just before, I think he was about 10, 11 months old. Okay. And so like he got to really understand everything that's involved, right? And we joked because he was doing a bit of a side business, and he had all these, you know, these ideas that he was going to be able to get so much work done. That didn't happen. So just before he got his job and went back to work, he was doing everything. He was even doing the laundry. I'm like, oh, you're trained. And then he had to go back. But I think like that was really great because I hear a lot about, moms complaining or not feeling really supported by, by their husbands. And I feel incredibly supported by mine. And we'll talk openly about, what I need, whether it's, if you can unload the dishwasher in the morning before you leave for work, then I can make sure everything's tidy and we come home to a tidy kitchen, just little things like that. And I like that we model that for our children too.
It's so important. And I think, talking from experience, I'm really bad at that. I'm really bad at saying what I want or what I need. I'm getting older now, so now I guess it more shows up because I'm like, oh, I'm tired now. Now I'm telling you.
Yeah.
But, often it is, that's the guideline of just saying, listen, I need food. And like you said, it doesn't have to be a massive thing. It's just part of the household. And when we just get used to doing it, nobody realizes that perhaps we don't really want to, or perhaps, hey, this would help me stepping back.
Yeah.
So that's one, and it definitely is that modeling. That's what children start to learn, like, wow. Even if you both come from different ideas and different ways of doing things, get the idea that, hey, there's a respect here. There's a
yeah.
That's great. And so now we have baby number 2 arrives, your daughter. And how is that then? That adds to the dynamic.
Absolutely. So the year that I was planning to get pregnant with her, and as I was moving to pregnancy, I had this feeling that early time with the 2, I was going to kind of cocoon again. So I did really make a point to spend time with my husband, spend time with friends. And that was great because I had the one pregnancy and delivery that, that went well and everyone was safe and healthy. I had much more trust in my body this time around, and I felt much more confident. And so it was such a different experience being pregnant. I loved my pregnancy. I loved my childbirth. But I had no idea how much my world was going to get rocked by having 2. It was the combination, I think, of the exhaustion, and then at the same time, my son was just starting to get into his autonomy stage. And that was really hard for me. I think I personalized a lot of it, and I didn't know how to handle. He had been such this sweet little boy that was so cooperative, and I think he had his own feelings about, this intruder that had come into the home, was, taking time away from mommy and daddy, and then also sort of testing the boundaries and doing the things that he should naturally do. And then he had a few health problems, and it was just sort of this perfect storm that I was not prepared. I was not prepared for.
You could have been, right? There was nothing you could do to prepare. Yeah.
And it was through that time of just feeling so exhausted and then frustrated, and then I realize now that we're both very sensitive, and that sensitivity would come out in reactivity. And then my husband is also sensitive, but kind of rigid. So it was really tough those first few years of navigating. I mean, we're working it through, and things are much calmer now. But what I really realized, and I didn't read the Conscious Parenting book until quite recently, but as I was reading it, I was like, oh my gosh, this has been my journey in these last, probably I would say 4 years in particular. And one of the biggest things for me was realizing that I could not keep putting everybody else first. I could not keep basing my worth on trying to make people happy and doing everything for everyone. And I had to start taking time for myself. I had to spend money on myself, which was really hard. And at work too, I was starting to feel some of the burnout. So that combination, I didn't have a choice. I had to push past any of that resistance to, it's selfish, the guilt, whatever. And it was like, no, this is about survival. And this is about, I have to do this for my family. And it's the best. It's the best thing ever in so many ways, because I've become a better mom. I've become a better counselor. I've become a better partner, a better person. Like in so many ways, it was sort of that crises that kind of forced me to sort of go back and kind of re-parent myself, sort of thing, and look at, okay, what messages did I get or didn't get that, that weren't helpful? What do I need to heal? How do I need to take care of myself? And remember that there's sort of like, there's my children, and then there's the little child in me that, that needs me through this process, because she's getting triggered like crazy,
Yeah, that's wonderful. That absolutely. Yeah. And that's always a shame when it comes to that. But I think sometimes it has to, for us to really wake up, it has to come to that burnout, that kind of like, I don't know, what I'm doing is not working, or whatever it be. And definitely how the self-care, and I didn't acknowledge any of that when mine was small. Self-care, I would be at home with them, I would go to work, I'd come home, I'd be with them, that was it, and anything would be around them. I'd almost struggle during the day to think, I have to take them to the park and we'll do the Zoom so that they have a really good time. And then I leave them with my husband and off I would go to work. Are you back? Yes.
Oh, sorry. I think we got cut off. I heard self-care and then it was sort of...
That's okay. I think it carried on recording my part.
So okay, good.
I'm really just saying how I didn't acknowledge self-care for myself, and with working and my kids are small, so I would be with them all day and try to be the really fun mom, let's have all these experiences, and then I'd go off to work, and then I'd come back and finish up, and it was all about them, and you realize how everything really is on us, and so we have to be that important member who really take care of ourselves, so that you can be in that place again. Right? So that you can be in the place, or that you can parent from how you would like to parent, instead of like instead, like if you're tired and overworked and everybody needs you. I find that quite suffocating myself. I don't go to a good place for that. So I definitely hear you for that. That's nice that you've managed to sort of find that place, that self-care. What kind of self-care do you do? What's your big go-to? I know you love nature.
Yes, absolutely love nature. So I every morning I take about an hour for myself now, and it's funny because I was never really a morning person, but the more that I did it, the more that I trained my body, and then I would get excited, and I wanted that time, because I was getting to the point where the alarm would go off and I would already be anticipating, the demands and the struggle, and it already felt hard and heavy before the day had even started.
Right.
Yeah. So, and then being in a helping profession where I'm caring for people all day too, the practice is kind of varied, but I do mindful meditation. And the interesting thing about that was I did that to just bring peace and calm. Right. That was all I was, sort of hoping for. Right. But the more and more that I did it, the more I started hearing, sort of hearing these whispers, these dreams, these ideas. And so that's been really interesting, because so much creative ideas and plans and, visions about my future, they came to me when I actually gave myself time to sit and to be quiet. And then I was also practicing regularly mindful self-compassion and the loving kindness prayer. I had done some training around that and just absolutely loved that. And I try to do writing. So I do a little bit of writing and maybe do some stretches. And I walk the kids to school every day. So I've been able to coordinate my schedule that I start late. And I absolutely love that. It's so good for all of us. Mm-hmm. And we kind of have a thing where, you know, if we've had a challenge in the morning or something, when we step outside, it's like, okay, we're going to let Mother Nature work her magic and, you know, just blow this away, so that when we, you know, when we part, you know, that we're parting with love and with affection, and not still with anger. Because I would notice that sometimes I'd still kind of be lecturing on the walk, and then I would start to become more conscious, and I'm like, shut up, Nicole, you know, they're not hearing you anyways. You're just getting yourself worked up. And this is not how you want, you know, to end your time together, right? So that walking was so good for that. And then also just for teaching my children to appreciate nature and beauty and simple pleasures, ordinary things. So now they know it's a non-negotiable, and it doesn't matter whether it's rain or shine, you know, you put on your raincoat, you bundle up if it's cold, and we walk. And so that's been really great. And I love that. My daughter will still, you know, reach out for my hand, and I know it's not going to be too much longer before, you know, the hand is going to come away. But for now, it's like that, just that soft, sweet hand. You know, there's something so grounding and wonderful about that.
And see, look at that. What comes through to me is, so those moments, you are in that moment. Don't let you say, I know the lecturing, mine was a drive to the kids to school, and I really and then you go, okay, bye, love you, have a nice day. Like, that doesn't sound very helpful. No one's feeling that, you know. The fact, you know, you can feel that beautiful pleasure of somebody taking your hand, and the skin on the hand, and the same with what nature gives you each step. And those are so important for us, for our soul, but for our children's soul. They really are. And I love when you're talking about your morning routine, because it comes through so clearly to me that as you're visioning and you're dreaming, or what you're going through, that is all about Nicole. Nothing being a mom, a wife, a worker. That is you and your soul, and that is just such a perfect place to nurture yourself from there. Great.
And then about a year ago, when I was introduced to Celeste Fournette, who is a beautiful coach and writer, and you know her, of course. And I was doing one of her programs, and it was just an exercise where you intuitively write. You know, she said, like, don't think about it, just, you know, sit for a few minutes in quiet, and then get out your pen and paper and write. And so I started doing that. I'd always journaled, but this was, it was so beautiful, because what was flowing were these words of unconditional love and acceptance. And so it was like nurturing, again, that little girl in me, and kind of opening up to that. And so that's something that I try to do every day, is just tap in for a few minutes. One thing I love is I will look for chakra music on YouTube, and I just love it. I love getting the energy flowing through my body, and then I'll find ones. There's Teos Wind has some amazing sounds, and just all kinds of different instruments, and their visuals are so beautiful. And so I'll just have my phone, and I'll be like doing my writing and listening to that. And I'm always trying to focus on gratitude as well. Spend a lot of time focusing on gratitude, what I'm grateful for. And I know that we all have a negativity bias in our brain. And so really working hard to, like, remind myself things worked out. It was okay. And, you know, it wasn't as bad as you thought it was. And you're not doing as terrible a job as you think you are, you know, and holding on to sort of those precious moments and really soaking those up, because I know the ones where, you know, where we mess up or where our kids are misbehaving.
Lots, yes.
Yeah, those are like, you know, shining so bright, neon lights, you know, you're a failure, you're a screw up, you're a terrible mom, your kids are gonna, you know, grow up to be convicts, whatever, and it's all flashing in our heads. And so I know how important it is to, you know, to counter that. And so it's been really neat is certain things I've learned on my mothering journey, I've applied to my work with clients, and certain things I've learned professionally, I've applied to my, to my journey as a mother, and it's all just been so beautiful and so complementary.
Super. And don't you find it such a balancing act and such a need to be flexible, because this conscious parenting journey is kind of moment by moment, right?
Absolutely.
As soon as we go into that plan, as soon as we go into this will be, or I will do this because they will, or I'll make it, goes topsy-turvy, right? It's that flexibility and that balance of just being, okay, setting your intention, working with your energy that you bring to the situation. That's a huge one for me. And going with, okay, this plan's not going to work. Okay. They didn't have such a great day. They're in a bad mood or whatever that it is. Like you say, not taking it personally and being able, you're constantly going with this ebb and flow, which is, like you say, this is life with children and with not. Just children bring it really right into our faces.
Well, and what was really interesting was I was reading a section in the Conscious Parenting book where she's talking about how, we're doing all these things to try to avoid anxiety. And, I realized that in the morning, I wanted certain things to go a certain way. And then I could trust we wouldn't run out of time. And I would say to them, I don't want you guys to be stressed out. But what I realized was, no, it's me that doesn't want to be stressed out. So it was really interesting when I came back from my trip and I spent a week just being and taking care of me and giving myself this incredible early birthday gift of being with lovely women in Maui. And it was all about presence, right? It wasn't about I have to accomplish something or I have to take care of someone. And so I was really trying to carry that with me when I came back. And so one morning, both of my children were being really resistant to getting up and moving through the routine. And I decided to try something different, and I just sat with my anxiety and I wrote in my journal and I could feel these waves of anxiety coming over me, but I just kind of disengaged from them. And I'm sure I had to say something at some point, but it was calm and it was loving, and we got to school on time. And so I started reminding I'd remind myself, okay, that didn't feel good leading up to that. But the end result was that we got to school on time, and they're learning to find their way and what works for them, Right. And so with my son, it's always the balance, because, he doesn't think he needs to clean his room or, do certain things. Right? He's all about what's pleasure. I just want to do whatever's fun, whatever. And so it's balancing that, because I know that's why he's in our life, to get us, outside more and active and playing. And at the same time, it's sort of balancing that with, but you also have to be part of the team, buddy. You also have to learn to be responsible. So that's going to be an interesting one that I'm riding out through the teen years. But at the same time, I'm sitting back and I'm thinking, you know what, maybe he's going to have to learn the hard way. Maybe he's going to be one of those kids that it's not going to hit him until he's a young adult, that like, oh, you know what, maybe I got to pull up my boots here and get to work. So I'm trying really hard not to impose my fears onto them. And it's certainly by no means perfect. There's lots of times when, I do have those moments when I'm triggered, but I try very quickly then to claim it as, this is about me. And I learned this really great concept in, Goldie Hawn wrote a book, 10 Mindful Minutes.
Okay. I've never read it.
It's a great book for families. So it's for families to incorporate mindfulness. And then there's also a section for people who really want to understand more the neuroscience behind mindfulness. And she's gathered all kinds of leading experts in the field, including Daniel Siegel, to talk about it. But she talks about the amygdala, the fear center of the brain, as your guard dog. So I love that analogy because my kids love dogs to begin with, but it depersonalizes sometimes when their actions trigger me. I can say that got my guard dog barking. And I love you, And I know you weren't really trying to hurt me, but that got my guard dog barking. And I talk now about my sensitivity and about how sometimes just your energy or being too close to me gets my guard dog barking. And so that's really helped, so that, you know, if I have raised my voice or something, because I've been triggered into threat response, we can quickly repair. And it's not about, you know, I don't love you, you're not a good child. You know, it's like there's this has happened. This is what's happened. I have to take ownership for this. So that's part of why they know mommy goes to yoga every Sunday, and that's a non-negotiable, because that keeps mean mommy away. And when I'm doing like my writing in the morning or something, if one of them gets up early and I'm not quite finished, they understand, like on the weekend, that I need my time, because I want to make sure that when I'm with you in a loving place, in a calm place. And I've sort of grounded myself so that I can do that to the best of my ability, because I want them to learn that we all need to do these things, you know, and especially those of us that are more sensitive, we need to be taking that time to start our day in calm, and to be aware of when we get triggered, and to be able to reset our nervous systems on a regular basis, and not see it as there's something wrong with us, but rather these are things that feel good. You know, they feel good, and everyone should do it. And slowly, that's my hope with my writing, that, you know, I'll spread that message and everybody will be meditating, and it's coming. I can see it coming already in there. But so I want to be explicit about that, you know, we all are going to get triggered, and, you know, moving through life always being happy is not normal. It's, you know, but rather we're going to deal with these emotions. But it's how we deal with them, you know, and if we do, you know, if we do hurt someone with words or even actions, then it's important that we own that and we apologize for that.
Yeah. And I think that's lovely when you said about being very clear to them that it's not about them, right? And being clear about, okay, I'm taking this time for myself. I talk about giving yourself a timeout, never mind anything. In terms of saying it's not, because it's so easy as a child, you just take it all on. It must be you. You did something bad. You did something wrong, or whatever. So it's lovely that you're spreading the word for yourself, but you're spreading the word to them, saying these are human emotions. You can have all of them. They're all there. There's a point for them all. And it's that accountability of how you use it, or when, or where, or whatever. But to give them that awareness that, you know, you can sit a minute. You know, your feelings, just, you can stop and sit. These are such incredible tools. That
You know, and I know that in those early years I did personalize, so I'm trying as best I can to try to repair some of that, and hoping for neuroplasticity. We're going to invert this message so that pathway you just don't go down anymore, you know.
No, you're doing amazing, and you know the difference is because they're going to see you walking your talk. You know, they're going to see that. That's the biggest lessons always, I think, to me. As a, like you say, it's teaching them, but it's always been a message out there, teach by example. And it's so key for that they see that, you know, you can say, I'm really overwhelmed today. It's not you, it's me. And I need, you know, to sit and have a cup of tea outside. When I'm done, join you again, right?
Yeah, and you know, it's so funny how I just seem to know those mornings that are going to be extra hard, and for whatever reason, I wake up going, I'm going to have a bubble bath this morning. So I have a bubble bath, and then, you know, the morning goes, and then I come back. I have a few minutes before I have to leave for work, and I think, how did I know? How did I know? A little bit of future telling ability or something. But yeah, I mean, I still have moments where I personalize. And it's funny because now the kids will catch me when I do that.
And you shared, right? They're quite happy to keep you accountable when you're like, okay, let that one go. I don't want to know.
Yeah. Well, I would use an affirmation a lot to help so that I wouldn't get stressed about time. And I've written about this in the Holistic Parent magazine. And it was, I have all the time I need. I have all the time I need. So I think my son has internalized that so much. I don't care about time. You know, it's like he's got his soccer to go to. He's like, yeah, whatever. But I have learned that if I just pull back and don't take this on and make it my issue and say, hey, I don't care if we're late or not. It's not my game, you know?
Yeah.
We seem to make it on time. He seems to, you know, to pull together. And so I realized that in my worrying and stressing, I was also sending the message, I don't trust you. And I know that's one of the things that's so important for our young people, to feel trusted, right? And to feel that they're capable and competent. So I've been really noticing that as I've been trying to deepen into my own faith and trust in life in this process of, I really need to have faith in them too, and show them that I, you know, that I have that faith.
Yeah. And it's amazing how when we do that, like, they do step up.
Yes.
It's important to them. If it's not, then that stuff is gone, right? But if it's important to them, it's amazing. I often find how, you know, from dragging feet to suddenly at the door, shoes on, shine, ready to go, and you're like, what? Oh, okay, let's go. Yeah.
Well, that's the thing, because I want them to learn responsibility, to learn to take responsibility, right? And so if I'm worried, because I'm worried about what other people are going to think. I don't want to be judged. Oh, I'm the bad mom that brings the kid late. It's, you know, I've been realizing it. I mean, that's one of the things doing the work that I do, and hearing some of the tragedies and traumas that I hear on a regular basis. I mean, some of these little things are not worth getting so upset over. And yet, if we don't train our brains will go there. They'll go to worst case scenario.
Always to the story. Yeah. It's a story.
Yeah. So now, like, I mean, I care about other people, but I care a lot less about what other people think.
Yeah. Oh, what a lovely release, isn't it?
It is. And I mean, both my children, I think that's one of the gifts that they're bringing in me. My daughter's very creative, and she dresses in very interesting clothes. And my son, he makes interesting noises, and, you know, he'll do whatever. And they're both like that carefree spirit. And I think that's one of the best gifts that our children have to offer us as adults, is to, you know, don't worry so much about, you know, what other people think, because we limit our lives so much that way, you know, and we add all this unnecessary stress and pressure.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's wonderful. Well, thank you, Nicole. I think there's lots of learning in what you're saying, and lots of help out there for parents to sort of realize, like, hey, these are the struggles, but these are ways I've found to solve and to change. And if you had like a one kind of sentence, I'm not good at one sentences, but 1-2 sentences to new parents, you have a lesson maybe that what would you advise them? What would come forward?
Well, I definitely, I think I had to go through everything that I went through, but the conscious parenting model, I think, is absolutely amazing. And knowing that from the get-go is so important. It's so helpful, because it's the question needs to be, what is this about for me? This isn't about my child. This is about me, and my child's just bringing it out in me. And so I think that would help a lot. Again, I was reflecting a while back about readiness, right? And how sometimes we can hear things or we can read things, but if we're not ready, like if our soul's not ready for that, if that's not part of our journey yet, because I had read a book called Growing Up Again, which was similar concepts to conscious parenting. And I had read that early on in my career to support my clients. And I remember thinking, you know, why did I not remember and retain that stuff when I was in the moment? I think one of the big things is there's so much information, and even some of the posts about how you should treat a child. And I think the messages are really lovely. I think the part sometimes that we miss is that we as human beings are so vulnerable to being triggered and to getting emotionally hijacked, that we can have the very best of intentions. But if we're not regularly working at, you know, coming from that calm, grounded place, doing our own, healing work to work with our triggers and practicing things like mindfulness and self-compassion, the nicest people, the kindest people can still end up doing and saying things that are hurtful or harmful. Like they say, emotional hijacks, are smart people saying and doing dumb things, like none of us are immune to that. Right. So I think that's the piece where it's not just about, the ideas, it's about how do you embody it? This is a mind, body, spirit to me when it comes to parenting. It's not just a cognitive, piece. And one of the things that I've done is I've actually gotten trained in Reiki, and I give Reiki to my son. And so it's that whole holistic, piece about how do we support ourselves. I think there's a lot more kids that are coming into this world that are highly sensitive, and understanding that and working with that, and parents that are coming from legacies of trauma or having experienced birth trauma or, their own experiences of trauma, and just how that makes us that much more vulnerable. I think that piece is so important, because otherwise I think what happens is we read all this stuff and then we can be so hard on ourselves, and so the two things that I find are so important is wherever we can to let gratitude and gentleness release and wash away the guilt. So much of the guilt is unnecessary, and all it does is it keeps us stuck. And in that place we're not able to repair, and we're not able to connect, and we're not able to do what we need to do to fill ourselves up again, like we talked about at the beginning. So that to me is so important that we work on those pieces.
Beautiful. Well, thank you very, very much. Thank you for joining me.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
You're very, very welcome. Very welcome.